Welcome everyone who is trickling in to join us today. I'm gonna give folks a few minutes to join us, and then we'll go ahead and get started. As people join, I'm going to introduce a poll, so feel free to answer that as it pops up onto your screen, just trying to gauge interest in different areas of biotech before we start this conversation. Can people see the poll? Nice. Okay. Wonderful.
We can't participate.
No. But everyone else, as you're joining, if you see the poll, please um, feel free to fill that out. Now that I'm full screen, I can't see it, so I know it's out there. But want to welcome everybody to this Wednesday's our last session of the month of Exploring Maine Industries, our webinar series. Today, obviously, is all about biotechnology and life sciences. But the program in general is a collaboration between the career offices at Southern Maine Community College, University of Southern Maine, and then Educate Maine's Maine Career Catalyst program. And our goal here is to support students' career exploration and understanding of the world of work. And so each moderated discussion this month, each Wednesday, has featured a different Maine industry and panel of experts, including employers, professional associations, industry advocates, working professionals within a field. And as you know, because you're here, these have been held on 4 Wednesdays in October from 12:15 to 1:30. So we were able to hear from folks in the healthcare industry, the IT, computer science, cybersecurity space. We had last week arts, humanities, and the creative economy. And we are finishing it up, rounding it out with our biotech life science conversation today. So it's my pleasure to pass it over to the moderator of today's discussion, to Billy Carey. And for folks that are just joining us, if you see a poll, please fill it out as she kicks everything off right away. All right. Thanks so much, everyone.
All right. Hi, welcome. So my name is Billy Carey. I am the uh, Education Programs Manager for the Bioscience Association of Maine, also known as BioMaine. A couple of the things that we do are we work as the industry association for the state of Maine, for life sciences companies in the state of Maine. And I get to do the fun stuff, which includes education and workforce development. Um, so for those of you who are students in life sciences, we have a scholarship program. We send middle school students to a science camp. We have a student showcase where students who do independent research projects can showcase them via posters or fast pitch competition in front of real life science professional judges and win prizes, monetary prizes. We also kind of, to further this discussion that we're having here today, have a career exploration event where we have representatives from companies with tables waiting for students to come ask them some of these questions. How do I get started in the industry? What types of things are you looking for in the future for future employees? That kind of thing that comes up in the spring. So keep a lookout for that one. And right now we're working on Maine Bioscience Day, where we get to share life sciences with middle school students across the state, show them what types of careers they can have in Maine in life sciences. So thank you very much, Meg. You can take down that slide if you'd like. Okay. So today we are discussing life sciences in Maine. Um, And I'd like to go around to the panelists and have everybody introduce themselves just very briefly. Who are you? What is your title? What do you do at your company? And briefly, what does your company do? Let's start with Brian.
Sure. Hi everyone, Brian Bousquet-Smith. I'm the head of operations at MedRhythms. Head of operations is the gamut of problem solving across MedRhythms from IT to customer success to manufacturing. And MedRhythms itself is a medical device company that helps stroke survivors or people with Parkinson's or MS learn to walk again using music. We have two sensors that go on people's feet, and we match music exactly to how they're walking. Hand it back to you, Billy.
All right, great. Calvin.
Hi, I'm Calvin Berry. I'm a faculty scientist at Maine Health, Maine Health Institute for Research. We aren't a company. We're a healthcare center, tertiary care hospital that has a research institute. I run a research lab studying endothelial cell biology and also a proteomics and lipidomics core, which is a facility that other investigators use to do advanced molecular analysis of various samples and tissues that they have an interest in.
And Bethany. Ooh, you're on mute.
Of course I am. Let's try that again. Hi, everyone. I'm Bethany Fortier. I work as a scientist in research and development at IDEX Laboratories. IDEX is a global company. We have over 10,000 employees in 175 countries, but we are headquartered in Westbrook, Maine. We develop, manufacture, and distribute diagnostic products and services, so equipment and software for companion animals, so your dogs and cats, as well as livestock, poultry and dairy, water, and some human health, so a broad swath. I work primarily in the companion animal space, specifically in our discovery phase.
Well, thanks so much, everyone. And thank you for joining us. And thank you to Maine Career Catalyst for having all of us here and having this discussion today. So in looking at the audience poll that we just got back, most people are interested in working in a lab or making a difference. And then comes solving health problems and not sure yet, which is also super valid. So thank you, everybody, for sharing that with us. So first off, I'm going to just share a little bit about what the life sciences industry looks like in Maine. So there are almost 600 businesses that have life sciences related jobs across the state. There are 9,832 life sciences jobs as of last count in 2024. And life sciences industry contributes $2.3 billion to Maine's GRP, so gross regional product. Life sciences jobs in Maine grew 31% from 2018 to 2023. Some of that, of course, was pandemic related, but those jobs have remained pretty steady as far as numbers wise, even since the pandemic has ended. So it's a pretty stable industry, but it is also growing. And as the industry organization, we're super excited to watch it grow and see all the momentum that this industry has right now. So I'm going to get back to the panelists. We heard just a little bit about what you're doing now, but maybe we can go around and talk a little bit about your own story and how you got into the life sciences industry or academia, and how you got into this, what you studied, and a brief overview kind of your general story. So Bethany, I'll start with you this time.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I work as a scientist in R&D, but I definitely did not start there. I got my undergraduate degree in biology, and then spent over a decade teaching high school science, and then went back to see what it would be like to get my graduate degree, and ended up doing an internship at Maine Health Institute for Research, which is where Dr. Berry is. Worked with a fantastic PI there, learned a lot, and then ended up piloting a research master's program between the University of Southern Maine and MIR, which was amazing. And through that work, I ended up getting a job at IDEX Laboratories and transitioned from academia to industry. So somewhat of a non-traditional path for sure, but I actually feel like it's a really well-rounded start to some skills that can be applied in a number of areas. So I appreciate the path for sure.
Nice. Dr. Very, would you like to share a little bit more about your background?
Sure. Well, as you can tell by looking at me, it's a long story. So I guess maybe the most relevant is I got, because of mentors in high school, I got really interested in chemistry. And when I got to college, I also liked biology, and then I found out about this field called biochemistry, and that's kind of been the thread for my career. I've gone to graduate school and also postdoctoral fellowships in biochemistry, and I basically, when I got to the decision point about what to do for a real job after graduate school, the choices open to me were either in industry or in academics, and I chose industry. And I went to work for a Fortune 500 company called Allied Signal Corporation, which I was the head of a fairly large biotechnology group within a biotechnology effort there. That Allied Signal is an aerospace company, but that was back in the day when people were branching out into biotechnology, a lot of like what's happening in Maine now. And I ended up leaving there and going to Agritech Systems, which was the company that was going to go on to become IDEX. So that was before they were a for-profit company and before they changed their name to IDEX. I worked there for several years developing DNA and RNA-based diagnostics with them, and then the opportunity came to start a lab at the Maine Health, was then Maine Medical Center Research Institute, what's now Maine Health Institute for Research. I've been there ever since, and the best part is being able to work with interns and students like Bethany, and be able to provide advanced training usually after college, or we have interns that are during college. Be able to provide advanced training for careers either in a nonprofit research institute space or in the for-profit arena, which is, as you know, where what IDEX is, and where a number of companies are. We've supplied employees for a number of these companies, both in Maine and other states. So it's a great opportunity to come and learn and also to teach. And there's a lot of teaching that goes on that's between peers and between faculty and students. It's a great place.
Thank you so much. All right, Brian, tell us a little bit about your background.
Sounds good. So my background in general is when I was in high school and college, I just like solving problems, whether it be on a computer or video games or a puzzle. It all coalesced around solving problems. And so my bachelor's is in computer and electrical engineering, which drove me down an engineering path. But basically my entire career, I've been chasing titles that don't have anything to do with what the degree is. So I started as a test engineer at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, basically helping to make sure submarines were working and going out to sea correctly. Worked at a company called Kepware, which is an industrial automation company in Portland that helps make manufacturing plants more efficient and automated. And like many of you that said in the poll, I just found it a little later in life. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to have a bigger impact than just working for a company. And I found MedRhythms. And so, as I said, MedRhythms is really focused on helping chronic stroke and Parkinson's patients. And so being able to go from the engineering technical side to actually working with patients and putting sensors on their shoes and seeing how they're walking and talking and actually having conversations with patients versus just solving a problem behind a computer really made a difference for me. And so I've continued to do that over the last 6-ish years at MedRhythms, moving to a bunch of different roles, but helping to make our team of curious and empathetic people. How do we grow that over time, and then also help as many patients as we possibly can.
Well, thanks so much. Yeah, so as you can hear, everybody has, a variety of different backgrounds and experiences, and yet they're all in life sciences. So what types of entry-level jobs or internships do you know of that are available for students with an associate's or bachelor's degree in this field? Kind of either thinking about PhD in the future, master's in the future, or maybe not. What types of entry level areas are there in our state that you know of? Anyone can take this one.
I'll be happy to start. We at the Maine Health Institute for Research, like a lot of places, not just us, we have internships. You and job shadows. You can come from high school and come and visit and visit a lab, job shadow an investigator. A more solid type of interaction would be the internships. These come in a couple of varieties. They usually are at the college level. So undergrads are encouraged to apply for our summer student research program, and there are other opportunities to. You can directly access us and look at our webpage and send us emails, and we can see if there's a program that we can accommodate you. But most of the internships are through the college level. And then those internships can either they generally either move on to hopefully a job in the industry somewhere around here if they want to be around here, or anywhere in the nation or world for that matter. Or they may choose to go a more traditional track, in which case they might try to address going to graduate school after they've gone through their undergrad training. The investigators here at Maine Health Institute for Research are all affiliated with the graduate program at University of Maine. And so that would be the entry point for people going on for advanced training. If they want to get an advanced degree, as opposed to going directly to industry with with an undergrad degree. I think most of our entry level positions here in the research area, and I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think they involve having a bachelor's degree of some sort.
I can piggyback on that if that's all right. I can, first of all, I want to trumpet what Cal said, like what used to be MMCRI, now MHIR. It was a fantastic internship program and a great way to get exposed to a lot of diverse expertise. I would say that a lot of the industry in Maine, they have their own internship programs as well. So you can apply on their websites. I know definitely IDEX has one for high school students and undergrads. So you can check that out. I think that there are a lot of opportunities for job shadows, which are underutilized. I also want to sort of trumpet BioMaine's summer internship program that you can apply for a scholarship for a summer internship through them. And there are obviously MDIBL, Bigelow, et cetera, that have their own internship programs. Internships aside, I would say entry-level jobs, there are a lot available at IDEX with just not even an associate's degree or a bachelor's. So there was a woman who worked on my team that came from a vet clinic, and she worked as a vet tech and had no degrees and has worked really hard and moved her way up in industry. So I would say work ethic has a lot to do with it, but there are definitely on-ramps, especially in ops and manufacturing as well as the engineering group. So I can only speak specifically for IDEX in this way, but there are definitely entry-level positions that don't require a degree. But I know that in a lot of other companies in Maine, especially in the life sciences, there are as well.
Yeah, I'd say in the startup realm, background at MedRooms is 40 people, similar companies. There's not a lot of posting specifically of a bioengineering or a biotech internship. There's a general interest. And so the biggest advice to students I would say is just reach out to companies you're passionate about. I'm interested in X thing or Y thing, and why you're interested in that. And there's always problems that need to be solved at a lot of these companies. And if you're willing to learn and have a hunger, there's going to be a lot of doors that are going to open up by just reaching out and putting yourself out there.
That's really that's really good to hear for any students listening. So yeah, great. Be proactive.
Can
Um,
can I hop on what Brian just said real quickly? It's about putting yourself out there. I often think about my career and how so many things that have happened to me that have helped me were totally unplanned and totally by luck and by chance. Without going into them, because some of them are more embarrassing than others. I would for that to happen, you have to be out there, and you have to be interacting with people you might run into that you don't even know what industries they're in. You just run into them socially. But being out there and interacting with people in an environment where you run into folks that have different expertise and you get talking to them will lead to interesting opportunities that you couldn't possibly anticipate. And so I'm a big proponent of that.
Yeah, to double click on what he said, going from my background, my freshman year of college, I went to a job fair, first job fair ever. Didn't think that there would be any job that would be available to me. First booth I went to, I met a guy who said, "Call me in March." And he, after the fact, told me he tells that to every student. And I was the only one who ever called him. And he gave me an internship on the spot. And so that's an example of something of be proactive, put yourself out there. You never know what's going to happen unless you try.
for sure. Another thing that's really great about living in the state of Maine is that we're a small state. And especially as I found in the life sciences industry, if you're interested in something, somebody will have a connection and they're more than happy to put you in touch with somebody they know that, wants to do what you want to do. So definitely, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us also after this. Bioscience Association of Maine also has many different networking events throughout the year. So put yourself out there, come to an in-person networking event, come meet people and talk to people about what you want to do and find a connection. So, all right. So what kinds of hard or soft skills does your company look for when they're looking at new hires or interns? Um, and other than kind of proactivity, what makes a student really stand out when applying for a role in bioscience or biotech?
Wow. Um, I guess I would say that the hard skills are going to be sort of specific to the role that you're interested in. And most of those, I would say for IDEX anyway, they can be taught. And frankly, those are going to evolve over time. So that being said, any hard skills that you attain prior to application are going to just be beneficial to you as you get there. But in terms of like soft skills, excellent communication, collaboration, flexibility, curiosity is a huge one, and just willingness to learn. That's that's a huge skill set to bring with you, I would say, because the landscape for life sciences, even within a company, it's always changing. So your ability to adapt and be flexible and work hard and learn, to me, that says a lot. Obviously, there are hard skills that would be beneficial, but again, they're going to be specific to your role. That's quick answer.
Yeah, I'll double click on the curiosity piece, but also empathy. And specifically in biotech or something like where we're part of is having a care for a patient is going to mean a lot more. And so definitely sticks out in an interview where if we can tell there's an authentic empathy toward a patient or toward an industry, et cetera. Double clicking on the communication piece too. Being able to talk is huge and communicate across a vast group of people. And the last thing I'd say is one of the things I really appreciate about students or interns is innovation. There's a lot of new tech that comes that students see that industry might not have access to or might not even know exists. I mean, some of the LLMs and stuff that's being done in schools it can be really valuable to bring that into the industry because there might be some adoption, but it might be really slow. And you could be really helpful at helping to boost that innovation.
I don't have too much to add to both of those great descriptions. The only thing I would add is that probably it's okay not to get too hung up on specific skill sets that you think are the things that people routinely use in the job you're looking for. It's great to have them, but we as Bethany said, we train all that stuff. That's like the easiest stuff we have to train. And so the harder things like empathy are hard to train. But I just hired a person who applied for a job that she had zero skills in. Um, uh, but she had a lot of skill in computer informatics and machine learning. And so I've said to myself, well, for something entirely different, maybe we should go for this. And so she's brought a dimension of computer capability to my lab that I didn't have, and in turn we're training her because she wanted to learn this, the bench skills that are the most useful. And so coming to a place with a preordained set of skills isn't is good. There's nothing wrong with it, but having a breadth of experience that covers, um, uh, those skills that you think are important or skills like them, but also other things like writing, as Bethany said, is great. We had a graduate student, maybe Bethany remembers, who started out as a journalist. Oh, it was Ian, my postdoc. So he started out as a journalism major, and so you just, these kind of things catch our eyes because they show that you have a diverse background, and you can not only bring a dimension to the job that we weren't looking for that could be useful, but also it indicates that you're curious and you are open to lots of different types of learning experiences. Because we can teach you how to run stuff and do experiments and so forth, but having that background makes it a lot easier and more fun.
Billy, can I add one more? So I just thought of this because of my own experience, but I would say resilience, because in the life sciences, academia, or industry, I would say, to make an Edison analogy, you're going to learn 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb, right? So it's important to be resilient and not get discouraged when things don't go as you planned, because biology doesn't always comply with what you want. So I would say be resilient and don't give up. Like, stay at it. And like Cal said, just like try to bring that broad perspective.
Nice. Yeah, so my next question is also kind of delving a little bit deeper into skills and what types of skills. So what kinds of, like, how important is hands-on experience? What types of internships or research experiences or lab work should students seek out in order to build up their resumes?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I hesitate to be too specific about those things because there's a the list is kind of boring if you read it like, but it is important. But you do bring up an interesting point. It is important, for example, and this is not limited to this, but when applying to graduate school, having experience in industry for a little while before, like a break year, before between being an undergrad and going to graduate school, having that different experience is always viewed as a plus. So it's more having research experience as opposed to having experience in particular sets of skills. Because it tells us that it doesn't really matter. You can do this job, and the skills, like I said, we can pick those up along the way. And as Bethany said, they'll be specific to each job. There's going to be some you have, there's going to be some you don't have. You may not use some of the ones you have, and you'll learn the ones you don't have. But I think having I'll get back to the breadth thing. If having a little bit of breadth of experience in different, that's why internships are good in different areas, is indicative of the you know, the ability to learn and the curiosity, which are the most valued things.
Yeah, and to double click on the breadth, I think a lot of times people focus on I need an internship or lab experience, or I need to be specific to the industry, but breadth can also be being a waitress, be it working at a landscaping company. Having that experience brings another layer to the table when you're coming into a lab or a company, et cetera. The other big value of that is it teaches you what you don't like. I think one of the important things about internships is it's a very short term time so that you can figure out if you like that industry, that role, that type of thing. That is not something you really have an opportunity to do after school or when you get out of industry. It's very rare that you stay at a company only 3 months and jump around. So I would say use this as an opportunity for yourself to figure out what you like, what you don't like, beyond just whether this company will like me afterwards from an experience side, is the other way to think about it.
But just to toss it out there and get it in there, if you walk through our parking lot, which I like to do because I like to look at the cars, you'll see a number of veterans license plates, and that's another area that, you know, is exemplary of diverse training, needless to say. And we have people who have been in the military, who have done things that are that have, you know, adjacent skill sets that include leadership, but also might include laboratory work. So you know, that's something to keep in mind also.
If you're really focused, I think, on doing lab work too, um, you know, there are a lot of professors in the undergraduate space that could use help in their lab. And you might be able to like get some experience there if you're not already. And I've known several people that were hired at IDEX that couldn't find internships, but or not paid ones, but set aside some time and asked and volunteered their time to learn. And if they're open to that, then that also works. Like just I would echo the put yourself out there. Like if you're motivated, then you can find a path forward um, as well.
Well, great. Um, okay, so the next question was kind of, again, similar to that, but more in the kind of academic classes. What types of, again, you've kind of said breadth of knowledge and different types of skills, but are there any classes that you're like, you really need this class or this type of class for a good background foundation for anything that you do?
I'll just chime in. I don't think of a specific class that you need. I mean, if you're a bio major, I'm not even gonna ask. But when we see somebody's resume and they have what I call reach classes. So these are classes that aren't necessarily the ones that we need you to have, but they indicate that you've you know, you've gone to a space where you just say, okay, I know this is a tough class, bring it. For instance, advanced chemistry classes, things like that, that show that your ability to stretch, even if they aren't things that are directly required in a particular job situation. That said, we've always valued chemical engineering classes pretty highly because they sort of show the ability to handle not just chemical concepts, but physical and engineering and mathematical concepts. And certainly any of the hard sciences like chemistry or physics are usually representative people looking at resumes as kind of stretches for most people, as opposed to being, you know, entirely a biology type of or life science type of background. There's nothing wrong with that, but having these stretches into the physical sciences and engineering and mathematics always catches people's eyes, especially if that's not your major. it's your major, then it would be a reach into a biology course.
Yeah, I would say the biggest things that stand out. So if I get a resume that has a 4.0, like obviously that looks very good. It's great. But what I really want to understand is the why. What's the passion for that person? What are they interested in? What are they diving into? I mean, the background of our team is I have a Broadway dancer, a person that worked IT in the back of a music theater. Uh, I have somebody who was a literary major and another that was a recruiter. And so they aren't necessarily diving into the complex biochem, but they challenge themselves in different ways. And so beyond putting yourself out there and getting somebody to take a chance on you, I think the biggest thing for you to reflect on is what are you passionate about? What do you want to do with your career? Because nobody else can drive your career over you. And so really figure out what options are available to you, challenge yourself and take a chance of, I'm really interested in this. Let me go dive in and learn a bit more there.
I would echo what Cal and Brian have said. And I would go a little bit further and say too, like there are obviously aspects of the life science industry that are not lab related. So you could be in sales or marketing or product management, a whole bunch of things. And so if you have a solid core foundation in bio and chem and physics, like I feel like you can pivot a lot more within the space, but follow your passion for sure. Find out as much as you can in advance if you really like it or you don't, as we've mentioned. That's just as important, ruling out things that aren't going to make you happy. And then just ensuring that you're willing to work hard in that space and, put yourself out there.
I remember when I was at IDEX many years ago, or decades ago, I was really impressed by the number of people that came in from the ag life sciences area, and by that I mean things that were different from what I did. Like for instance, working on university farms and feedlots and things like that. Actually really having animal experience. Other than mouse experience, was always a feature that I thought was impressive because I didn't have that. But I can't think of one specific skill that is probably worth thinking about, and that is writing a killer. This goes back to what Brian said. Writing a killer introductory letter about why you want a particular job and what you're passionate about and what you think what you want to get from a particular experience. I've sat on admissions committees for graduate school, and you always have to provide one of these letters. And believe me, the spectrum of letters that you get is quite impressive. And I don't mean that necessarily because they're all really great. So when you see a good one of those introductory letters, that's a keeper. And so it's a good idea to spend some time and get some mentoring and some advice and some help with these types of introductory approaches. Not just your public speaking and how you interview, and that's also worth practicing, but having a letter of introduction that's really well done is probably is a very helpful thing when you're just starting out.
Okay, so I'm going to switch gears just a little bit here and talk a little bit about what each of you do kind of in your typical day within your, life sciences job. And also chat a little bit about, what surprised you when you started in this role? Was there anything that you weren't really expecting?
Well, the most recent one is the basically failure of the federal government to support biomedical research in the last several months. That's a surprise. I think it's a surprise to everybody. There aren't that many surprises in this business. Every student, every intern surprises you. That's in a positive way. You know, experiments that should work, that don't work, or that lead to results you didn't anticipate. That happens. It's rarer. It's a good thing. But funding is an issue, and seeing politics make its way into science is a surprise, and not a good one.
And can you tell us a little bit about what you do on a typical day? Like what does your day look like as far as
Yeah, so a typical day for me, so I run the lab around here. So a typical day for me is to come in when, if I'm particularly lucky, I get to do something like this. But normally I would come in pretty early. I integrate a running routine into my mornings. So we have a trail out here. I do that every couple of mornings. But mostly I try to get an experiment started on some instrumentation that I'm working on, get it going. These things take time, so it's nice to get an early start. And then I'll go meet with people, usually go to a fair number of meetings while that stuff is running in the background. And then after the meetings settle down, I can go back and see what the damage is with my experiments. And then the biggest other part is to meet with other people and talk about their work and figure out how we can help them.
Nice. All right, Brian, I'm passing it over to you.
Sounds good. So, for our team, one of the big things we start with is a team meeting. So we have a 15-minute stand-up. Typically, it started with talking about our kids or our dogs or some random thing just as a team. But then it dives into whatever problem du jour. In an operations group, it's a lot of firefighting and how do we figure out and triage the things of the day. But after that and triaging the issues, it's really focused on how do we help the patients. One of that is digging, could be reaching out to patients and calling them and understanding how they're using their product, or it could be digging into their data. So for every step that somebody takes, we have 40 data points per step for a 30-minute session. That's a lot of data over a life of prescription. So digging into and making experiments over what's working, what's not, how can we better make this product, how can we better support the patient, and the gamut of other experiments that we can do. So sometimes experiments are more scientific of let's look at gate data. Other times it's how can we improve how we're working with the patient or working with our team members or et cetera.
I would say for me, it is a lot of sort of research and strategy meetings at first, just to sort of map a path forward, designing experiments to sort of ferret out the answers that you want, because again, we're in the diagnostic space. You have a plan in place for a week, and that could pivot daily, like depending, it could change. I have come in and had a plan, and then by noon the plan is different for results for 2 p.m. the next day. So it's kind of that was surprising to me, was there's a very fast pace in industry compared to academia. So I wasn't necessarily prepared for that. And I would say there's a lot of data analysis, regroup, collaborate with others, redesign, try again kind of efforts. So it's a lot of basically interspersed meetings and experiments. There are other like beneficial things mixed in there, but typical day is that. And I would say we talk a lot about our cats and dogs, for sure.
As you should, right? So have you within your pieces of the industry, because each one of you comes from very different parts. Is there anything that you've seen, any new trends or things that have been becoming more and more popular, more and more interesting over the last few years that you think students should pay attention to if they want to build a future, especially in Maine?
I'll jump in. Some of the newer scientific developments that were completely unforeseen. I wouldn't even talk about AI. That's out there. Let Brian talk about that or somebody else. But a technique called CRISPR, which is being used to be able to edit the DNA of organisms. This will have a lot of impacts, and it already is having impacts in healthcare. In infectious disease, I would imagine it's having impacts in animal care and animal genetics, plant genetics as well. And so this technique is pretty unanticipated, the level of precision that that allows you to actually edit the DNA of a grown organism, a multicellular organism. And that's something that's only beginning to have its effects now. And I can't remember, I did look to see how many companies are actually based on this technology, but there are quite a few. Back in the day, it was molecular biology that was the big thing. That's still going on. That's been decades. But in the area that I'm working in, that has to do with protein chemistry, that's also changing a lot in a lot of ways that are important to keep an eye on going forward, and also providing jobs for people. That helps.
Yeah, to jump in there. One of the things, I just looking back on my journey, Medrhythms didn't exist when I was someone that was your age in school. So trying to predict ahead of what the technology was going to do, it's really hard. And so what I'd say is that's why I typically lean into curiosity, so you can take advantage of whatever comes ahead of us. I'm on a panel at 3 p.m. talking about what healthcare in 2040 is going to be. And the real answer is we don't know. There's a lot of conjecture of what it could be. And so really being curious and thinking ahead. I think looking at Maine in particular, one of the challenges is Maine's an older state. And so as we get older and hospitals get smaller and smaller, or aggregate into Portland, what does that look like? How do we support more people? I think technology is obviously something that is going to have to come into play as we start to do that. But a lot of it, I would look to all of you, is there's a lot of innovation that's going to come, and it's not going to come from people who are following the trend of what is already out there. It's following the new trend of what could be, using AI, using precision medicine, all of these things that are CRISPR technology as an example, new technologies, and using them in unique ways that we're not even thinking about right now, is really what's going to come.
I would echo that and say that tech innovations are happening exponentially. And if you try to dive deep into all of them, then you'll drown. So I feel like if you have like a curiosity and a broad understanding, and you can sort of keep up with the field in general, then that will help you to see where connections can be made. And if you're curious, new innovations. So I would say, like, try to see what it might be, but don't try to master everything. It's just too much. Everything's happening really, really fast.
Okay, so what advice would you give to a student who's curious about the field, especially someone who's unsure of where to start? Are there professional associations, websites, or any specific events that you would recommend them attending other than Biomains?
The Biomain sounds pretty good to me. I wish there was something like that when I was starting out. I think the professional associations are probably a bit far off in the future, depending on where you are. Not very far, but once those tend to presume that you've already sort of started on a track, gone a certain distance. And now you have a little bit of a focus, and you want to maybe explore that focus further or build a name for yourself. So you look at the professional associations. I think there's a lot to be gained by reading broadly, reading the paper, reading the New York Times, the science sections, reading magazines like Scientific American, if it still exists. But, kind of a lay person science in different areas. That you may already have done that, and you may already be there, and that's where the passion's coming from. But clearly, picking an area and making some contacts and getting some experience in that area, and beefing up your education in relevant areas is really the tried and true way to move forward, to me.
Yeah, I'll double click on what I said earlier of I think in general, we can point people in resources, whether it's the RU or RU Institute for Northeastern, or I know Maine and USM each have their own pieces, but it's all specific to, these are all generalizable solutions. I point each of you to really look for what you are most passionate about, and then find companies or people that are focused on that thing and reach out, because they're going to give you the best advice specific to what you're interested in, and can really dive deep into that specific thing. If you don't know what the specific thing is, obviously those generalizable are great areas that you can dive into to understand what the breadth of options and provide a perspective, would be my advice.
Yeah. And as much as Billy said, don't talk about BioMaine, I'm going to have to say that that's a great place to start, to see what's going on in the life sciences in Maine. But again, it's very, if you have a specific idea, then you can like reach out, or you can pick up podcasts or blogs related to what you're interested in, and sort of follow what the new innovations are in that space.
I should also quickly mention that most states have a biotechnology association of some sort. And so the states, the states that come to mind are California and Massachusetts and New York, pretty big ones, in addition to what you can see in your own very own home state. So you may get ideas from those other websites that you wouldn't have thought of, and then you can inquire about those ideas with folks here or there, and pick up hints and ideas from lots of different sources. I mean, back in my day, we didn't have an internet. We weren't able to browse websites of different companies and things like that. So it's a huge amount of information, and actually quite a bit more detail than you probably need to get started.
I also just put in the chat more about our educational programming, which again includes scholarships as well as kind of networking events and things like that. And the Jackson Laboratory that we haven't really talked much about up in Bar Harbor has some great career resources as well, if you'd like to kind of further learn more about genomic related life sciences. So they have some cool videos as well that I put in the chat if anyone is interested in that. So, we've been pretty efficient with our time here. I'm going to go around and have everybody say, what's one thing that you wish you knew when you were a student preparing for a career? Yeah, one thing that you wish you knew that you didn't know then and would have been beneficial.
I think the big thing for me is that the decisions you make right now don't necessarily have to be the decisions forever. I think there was a lot of pressure growing up of like, you have to pick a path, and that path is what you're going to be on, and you're going to forever be on that path. And I think one of the reflections looking back is careers can change, and you can go in a variety of different directions. Also, there are so many degrees, and then there's exponentially so many jobs off the back end of those degrees. Good. I mean, going from my career, a QA engineer doesn't exist as a degree in college. You have to go get a degree in something, and then you become a QA engineer. I didn't even know it existed. So the biggest advice I would say is follow what you're passionate about, and don't focus so much on titles or this specific thing, and focus more on what you're interested in and how to challenge yourself.
Yeah, for me, the one thing that I didn't know about was, I'll come back to this, I'm repetitious, but the role of pure chance in what you end up doing, and being open to that, and being out there, and being a luck magnet, for things that are going to happen, that are going to come your way because you're in the right place at the right time. You'll find that out anyway. It's not something you have to be super proactive about, except getting out there, and things will happen, and take advantage of them when they do.
I would say that I wish that I knew that it was okay not to know. Like Brian mentioned, everyone makes you feel like you should have an idea exactly the trajectory of your life. So I would have liked to have known that instead of having to come to that conclusion on my own. Secondly, I would say an important thing maybe to know would be don't be afraid to switch. Don't feel like you're stuck. Like if you are not happy doing what you're doing, you don't feel fulfilled, you feel like you have more that you want to apply in a different area, make the switch. Like you'll be okay with hard work and motivation. You can do it. Communicate and just don't be plankton. Don't be carried along with things. Like pick a path and just try to make headway. And I think it'll be great. But like I for sure felt like I needed to do what people expected was the next step, and was shockingly surprised. Like Cal said, take a chance and you'll see. So
Yeah, to double click on what Bethany said, one of the biggest things I teach any new grad is to say, I don't know. Tests and education teaches you to guess on things and to put an answer even though you don't know it, because you might get partial credit or you might be able to have a pathway there. I'd much rather have people say, I don't know, and we can teach and go in that direction rather than uh, thinking you know something, you go down a path and realizing that's not at all the correct answer. To double click on what Cal that said too, though, around luck and how luck has play in it. One of our things that we say here is put yourself in a position to get lucky. And there's a lot of times that luck comes into play, but you have to put yourself out there and put yourself in a position to get lucky. In reverse of that, by not doing things, put yourself in a position to get unlucky. And so you get into a habit of, well, I didn't get that, I didn't have the luck. Well, put yourself out there. Go and put yourself in a position that you could meet that person. You could have that conversation. You could get that coffee invite that you didn't know was an option. So that's the other play there.
Um, for sure, definitely. Yeah. Sitting on your couch, you're not going to make the connections you want to make. So get out there. So we have a couple of questions here. The first one is seeking out internship opportunities. I know Bethany, you mentioned, just going to a company's website. Do you know of any other ways to kind of find internships? I know Maine Career Catalyst might be a little bit of help with that, but um, anyone else have other places to look? I do think also for this question, so she specifically asked about IDEX or Marin skincare. And I think some of them are very seasonal, right? So it's kind of summer internships, and they might not pop up until January on the websites as well.
yep, there is on IDEX's website, there is a specific button if you scroll down to learn more about internships. And usually that is over the summer. But if it's an exposure that you're looking for just to learn more, see if you like it, then you can certainly approach individuals in the lab about job shadows and things like that Cal mentioned if you can't find your way into a specific internship program. And I know that as far as academia goes, or MDIBL or Bigelow or things like that, then there are individual PIs that you would have to approach for that. But IDEX does have that specific internship opportunity all throughout the various spaces within IDEX. So there are a lot of opportunities there, and I would definitely try to get into that application process early. I would also, the reason that I mentioned approaching individual people is because of the internships available that are funded externally to the company, like BioMains, where you can have an internship agreement in place. Somebody said, yeah, I do think that you'd be great in the lab, but we can't afford to have an intern. Then you can apply for external funding for that. And I think that that's another great way to show your motivation and drive to be in the space.
Meg also just pointed out that a lot of their employer partners post on the Live and Work in Maine job board. So that's another space to look for internships. Okay, another student has a working background in healthcare and administrative roles, but is passionate about animals and the arts. And are there more kind of companies like MedRhythms that blend biotechnology with music or the arts in Maine that you know of?
Good question. Uh, so nothing specifically in Maine, but there are more companies outside of Maine that are doing specifically biotech, less with music, specifically RAS or rhythmic auditory stimulation, which is what MedRhythms does. It's fairly unique to MedRhythms, but there's other companies doing similar stuff in other spaces, either with prosthetics or exoskeletons or similar types of things. I'll throw my email in the chat if there's further questions or you want to dive in. Definitely can reach out and I can give you some more information specifically.
I know that there's other spaces for animal health in Maine, like Elvet and Hound Bio and stuff. So there are other companies that deal with the animal health. I mean, obviously, IDEX is passionate about pet health and pet owners' happiness. And so that is for sure one. Also, if you're leaning towards a veterinary space, obviously that's a great path forward too, if you like to help animals and are passionate about health. So
Okay. So another question is that really love a wide range of science, but what's the best way to help her narrow down exactly what she's interested in, or to go in one direction, or should they all just overlap and just kind of try everything?
I had a friend that had the same question once. It's overwhelming sometimes when people ask you, what do you want to do? And you like so much. I have that problem all the time. I would say, side note, keep learning all the interesting things that you enjoy. Like, if you like aerospace engineering, but you're a biology major, it's okay to do that on the side if you want. But I would say sometimes it's easier to rule out what you don't want. Think about things that you don't want to do, because like lifting something out of the air that you do want to do when you don't even know what's available is really hard. So I would say kind of like think about the life that you would see yourself having, like not just like the type of job, but the workspace environment and hours. And then try to move forward from there by doing the things that we've all talked about: job shadows, internships, just speaking with people and asking them. I mean, I don't know anyone in Maine in the life sciences that wouldn't be happy to have a conversation about what they do and what it involves to help you make a decision. Everybody in this space is so focused on raising Maine up, everyone in Maine. So I would say don't be afraid to ask and communicate.
Okay, let's see, we have about 10 minutes left. Anyone have any final pressing questions from our or panelists? Do you have any questions you want to ask each other? I'll give you a minute.
Yeah, how's IDEX doing? I see the stock is up. You have to keep it going in that direction.
I think we're doing okay. I would say every day is different and an adventure. It's a lot of people and a lot of fun. We've got quite a crew now, so
Yeah.
diverse.
Some of your crew came from here in addition to yourself.
Yes, that is true. Maine Health was a fantastic place for me to be. I'm grateful for that opportunity, for sure.
We're glad you got it.
Okay. Well, I don't think we have any further questions. I just want to say, thank you everybody so much for being on this panel and lending your expertise. And I encourage anyone in the audience to reach out to any one of us. If you have further questions, please go to BioMain's website. We really do have a lot and a lot of ways to connect with the industry and with other people to ask more questions. And again, we'd just be more than happy to help get you in touch with somebody that has more answers than I do. But yeah.
That's perfect. Thanks so much, Billy and Bethany, Calvin, and Brian for joining us this afternoon. And hope you all watching learned something, and feel free to reach out, like Billy said, if you have any questions. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.